Imagine just walking down the street, right? And you cross paths with someone who looks a whole lot like you, but they aren't actually human. They belong to an entirely different human species. I know, it sounds completely bizarre. It's like a scene straight out of a sci-fi movie. But as we're about to see in this explainer, this wasn't fiction. This was once our actual reality.
Let's rewind the clock. 300,000 years ago, the Earth was a vastly different place, and it wasn't just us wandering the globe. In fact, our planet was home to at least 9 different human species, all living at the exact same time. We literally shared this planet. We were just one single character in a much, much larger evolutionary story.
Okay, let's dive into this. The diversity was just incredible, and these different species were perfectly adapted to their specific harsh environments. You had the Neanderthals, right? They were the absolute rulers of the freezing, ice-covered plains of Europe, far stronger and way more muscular than us. Then, over in the freezing, high-altitude mountains of Asia, you had the Denisovans. And deep, deep in the dense tropical jungles of Indonesia lived Homo floresiensis. They were barely 3 feet tall, which is why scientists affectionately call them the hobbits. They were all surviving, thriving, and perfectly molded to their environments.
Now, fast forward to today, and, well, it's a completely different picture. 8 billion. There are 8 billion people on Earth right now, and every single one of us belongs to just one species, Homo sapiens. Us. All of that brilliant, wild diversity we just talked about, it is completely gone.
Which brings us to an absolutely chilling ancient mystery. Where did the other 8 human species actually go? I mean, were they just wiped out by some mysterious global disease? Did the climate suddenly shift too fast for them to keep up? Or is the truth actually far more terrifying than that? Section 1. The illusion of superiority. Breaking the myth. We naturally tend to assume that we survived because, well, we were always the smartest, the strongest, the most advanced beings around. We kind of like to think it was just our destiny. But the actual evidence totally shatters that myth. Think about it. On one hand, you had our ancestors, Homo sapiens. We were migrants stepping out of the blistering heat of Africa and walking into a completely alien, frozen environment. On the other hand, you had the Neanderthals. And let's get one thing straight, they were not primitive brutes. They were Ice Age apex survivors. They had brains just as large as ours, maybe even larger. They knew exactly how to control fire, they crafted highly advanced hunting tools, and they even buried their dead with flowers. Physically and environmentally, our Homo sapiens ancestors were completely, utterly outmatched. So, you have the Neanderthals, who had dominated Europe for hundreds of thousands of years, facing off against a newly arrived, really poorly adapted group of Homo sapiens. Logically speaking, we should not have survived. So, what suddenly flipped the script? How did we actually manage to conquer the Earth despite these overwhelming odds?
Section 2. Our secret survival weapon, the power of communication. You see, our greatest asset wasn't hidden in our muscles. It wasn't some physical trait at all. It was actually hidden in our complex language and, believe it or not, in our ability to gossip. Homo sapiens had a superpower that literally no other species on Earth had. And this brilliantly illustrates our secret. We became an interconnected superorganism. That means we formed a massive collective through language, which allowed total strangers to build alliances, build trust, and rapidly share technology and ideas. We evolved way past just small, isolated family units.
It's like a giant network. Imagine a new hunting technique or a sharper weapon is invented by just one person. Because we could talk, and boy did we talk, that knowledge didn't just stay in one cave. It spread like wildfire across continents via trade and gossip until massive tribes could adopt and improve that technology collectively. Now contrast that rapid flow of information with the Neanderthals. They mostly lived in small, isolated groups of maybe 30 to 40 individuals. If one group figured out a brilliant new hunting trick, well, that knowledge pretty much died with them. Homo sapiens, on the other hand, figured out how to pass down information and solve massive problems as a team. Section 3. The dark replacement theory, survival of the fittest. Now, I need you to brace yourself for a second, because understanding this incredible advantage we had leads us right into a deeply disturbing chapter of our history. As our ability to cooperate and invent just skyrocketed, so did our numbers. We experienced a massive, exploding population. Homo sapiens needed more food, and we needed more land. And so we started aggressively expanding out into the exact same territories where the Neanderthals and Denisovans had been living peacefully for millennia. The problem? Resources were strictly limited. And nature really only has one rule: survival of the fittest. It came down to competition, starvation, and war. Experts believe we actively and deliberately targeted the other human species. We engaged in direct, brutal, violent wars over territory. And even indirectly, we outcompeted them by simply stealing their food and overhunting their game. We reproduced faster, we adapted quicker, and our sheer numbers were just too overwhelming to fight against. The reality of our global expansion was brutal. As the quote says, one by one, every other human species succumbed to starvation, disease, or violence at our hands until they were erased from the world forever. Our unmatched adaptability, that massive communication network we built, it ultimately became a grim death sentence for our closest evolutionary cousins. We wiped the board completely clean.
Section 4. The hidden genetic legacy, a shocking truth.
But did the Neanderthals and Denisovans truly vanish 100% from the face of the Earth? The answer is actually a resounding no. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is when Homo sapiens and the other species crossed paths in those ancient frozen forests and plains, we didn't just fight. Modern genetics proves that we also interbred.
Which leads to a pretty mind-blowing reality for a lot of us. If your ancestry is from pretty much anywhere outside of sub-Saharan Africa, modern genetics reveals that your DNA still contains about 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA right now. So they didn't completely go extinct. A small, silent percentage of them is actually still alive. It's encoded right into the very fabric of your biology, literally living inside you today.
We are the last human species left standing, the only ones out of 9. Which really forces us to reflect on a heavy question. What does our history actually say about our willingness to cross absolutely every limit to survive? We battled the extreme forces of nature, and we aggressively erased our closest human cousins from existence, carrying only a tiny genetic ghost of them with us into the future. It's a brilliant, yet deeply chilling path to our survival. Keep questioning everything, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.